Thank you. Again, my name is Sherrod. I'm a grateful, blessed recovering addict.
Hey, Sherrod.
Tonight's topic of this workshop is unity in recovery. Without further ado, I'll introduce Tanya J. As the first speaker, and Daryl is the second speaker on the topic, which is unity in recovery. And with that, I'll give you Tanya.
Hi, family. I'm Tanya, I'm a blessed recovering addict.
Hey, Tanya.
Hi, back. And I want to say that it's truly an honor to be here, truly an honor to be asked by GRCNA to come and share my experience, strength, and hope on a topic that's near and dear to me, which is about unity. I am so grateful that when I came into this fellowship that it was expressed, it was drilled into our heads that we were all that we had, and that I needed you in order for me to survive. And I want to say that, you know, when I came around, those dope fiends that were there, because that's what was here when I got here, I was a crackhead. And those dope fiends that were here, they loved us. And they loved us enough to risk our anger. They loved us enough to tell us that you're not going to come here. They used to say little things like, how can somebody that just got here tell somebody that's been here how it works here? You fuck around, we'll be here when your ass get back here. You know? And when they would say little things like that, they used to give us other little slogans. You know, they used to tell us that we are each other's eyes and ears. And it's real important that we still keep going back to things like that, because what I'm finding in the fellowship now, and I don't know if it's just because it's 26 years later for me, but it's very difficult at times for me to stay inside this fellowship when I see certain things going on. I know that I need you in order for me to survive. So I need you to be working on getting better so that you can help me to get better. So if you sick and I'm sick, all we doing is passing on the disease. You know, it's like the crab in the barrel syndrome. One of us got to make it out the barrel to help the other one to get up and to crawl out the barrel too. You know, and they told me that the only way that I'm going to get better, they told me that the answers were in the steps. I am, I believe in the literature. I believe that we're the fellowship. But if you read the literature, it says never have we found anyone who had followed this way of life ever go back to using. And for me, like, I haven't found it necessary to use. I'm not going to tell you that my disease has not attacked me. See, my disease tells me now that after you done got everything that you always wanted to get, the house, the car, the husband, the education, and all that other stuff, and now that and you raise your child, right? And now your ass ain't smelling no fucking more, that somehow you don't have to be here no more. And so when I come in here, my disease tells me that the patience that the old timers had with me, and I don't know if it's because when I came in here, when I came in here off of drugs, I want to tell you that you didn't know that I was an addict when I first came here until I opened my fucking mouth and you said that she's sick. Because they told me in the literature, in the tradition, that the addict that comes today is going to be more fortunate. That means we got to be more vigilant to look at who's the sick puppy. Because they're not coming in skinny. They ain't coming in sucked out and sucked in. And so it's real important that we get out of our way and allow ourselves and the God of our understanding to complete the mission that the God of our understanding has given us, which was for you to get yourself together so that you can help the next person find the same dream, their lost dream like you had, and come into this fellowship. In order to do that, we got to be vigilant. That means that you got to stay on top of your recovery. And sometimes when I come inside the rooms, you know, we got this thing with everybody texting in the meetings and listen. It's real important that for an hour and a half, I get your undivided attention. Because when we come in here, we're fighting for our lives, and our disease will use any kind of distraction to tell us that it's all right. I ain't bothering nobody. I'm just sitting there on my phone. It's all right, you know. I'm just talking to the person right next to me. I remember when they told us back in the day, if it wasn't in their literature, you shouldn't have it in there. I watch people sometimes be reading through flipping through the thing, and it's based on attraction. So being based on attraction, you never know who's watching you. And so for me, I want to tell y'all that 26 years later, I still sit on the front row. I've done that my whole recovery because I have a disease, right, that will tell me with my bougie ass, right, that now I got these credit cards, MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Gold Card, and some of them cards are over $25,000. It tells me I can use for a long time now. See, I only came in here because I ran out of money. And I got tired of sticking y'all up, the fellas. Because see, I was a victim of rape. So you wasn't gonna get it. See, the only most prized possession I had was my body. And I had a problem when a guy would try to talk to me, because you know I was feeling fine, looking good, I ought to be in Hollywood. I was a fine thing out there. But see, I was an intellectual hoe. See, I wasn't the one that did the walking of the street. I tricked, but I tricked with my mouth. You know, because I knew the other ones, how they were, and I saw how you treated them, so I knew to be intellectual with you. I'm going to still rob you like they are, but you just be shocked. And so what I realized when I came in, like I had issues, and today I know, issue. And y'all told me that the solution was coming in here and getting into the steps. I want to say that my first year in recovery, we didn't go to the steps. They told me my first year, the first 90 days, they made me go to beginners meetings because they said I needed to learn your language. I also needed to know whether or not I was an addict and I needed to be here. So we went to beginners meeting so that I knew what to say. I knew your language. I'm not cross-addicted, dual-addicted, sober. This is Narcotics Anonymous. And it tells us in our literature that we stand on our literature and we thank the other fellowship, but we no longer have to use their language to describe who we are. And I want to tell you this, and if you think that what we do is, you know, unspiritual when we say stay with our language, and y'all say, well, you know what I mean, try the other fellowship and try and keep talking about you're an addict there. They will cut you right then and there. And so in here, because we know sometimes that we can't throw you out, you think that you can come in here and do whatever you want to do. But I'm going to tell you what an old timer said to me too. He said the same thing. How can somebody that just got here tell somebody who's been here how it works here? You fuck around, we going to be here when your ass get back here. Because the bottom line is that this is a suggestion program, but what is a suggestion? It's really a subtle command. We're asking you nicely to follow our way of life. And sometimes it may seem harsh, but if you look at our predecessors, there was one, Jimmy K, and Jimmy K said one of the things that's going to plague us is that our inability to accept authority. And if you ever become a productive member of society, you're going to answer to somebody. And one of the things we come in here, we believe like you can't tell me nothing. But let me tell you something. If you read the literature, listen what it says. It says our leaders are but trusted servants, they don't govern. What they're telling you, there's some leaders in here. They're called your predecessors, people who have come before you, that's trying to lead you back to the light so that you can do what you're supposed to do here. And if you don't believe what I'm talking about, read what the steps says. It says after you've had a spiritual awakening, your job is to go out there and to carry the message to that addict that's out there that's still suffering. So you ain't here to be in here entertaining me. We have some work that we got to do. And let me tell you something. Just like you're sitting here today, right? There were some people that came in your life and caused some harm. And that's why some of us are sitting here today. And guess what? Your ass has caused some harm. And you don't have all day to get your shit together. Some of them kids want their mama back. They want their daddy back. Some of these women out here, they want their husbands back. Some of these guys want their wives back. And we come in here and we act like we got all day to get it together. I didn't come in here to hang out with y'all. And my job is to help you to save your life. And I pray that you're going to help me to save mine. Because this fellowship told me that my disease, I can't even spot my own deception. So no, you're not going to see me really acting out in places. That's not how my disease. I'm an intellectual hoe, I told y'all. I will intellectualize some of the most outrageous sort of nonsense. See, my disease get me by saying, no, because, you know, I did it because so and so and so. But see, I have sponsees. Let's say sponsor, you know that ain't right.
Keeping it spiritual.
You know, we come into a program, right? It's about life. And sometimes we wonder in this fellowship, right? It talks about how is it that some people who have been here for a long time, or some people who have been here and they haven't done the steps, and how do they stay here and reap the benefits and all that other stuff, right? Because we have a tradition that says the only requirement is the desire to stop using. If you have a desire to stop using, you're welcome. It says in our literature, however, in order for you to recover, these are the steps and the principles that make recovery possible. See, it's not until the student is ready that the teacher's going to come. It's not until the pain outmeasure the pleasure that the student is going to get better. It told us that we could be beaten, stomped, choked. Listen to the different people when they do a fifth step in a meeting. You know we share. Every time you share in a meeting, that's a fifth step.
Yes, sir.
You're telling us about something that you've done. And at the end of the day, it talks about after you shared it. Now, back then in the day, like we would share things, they would allow us to share, right? You might share about that bullshit you're doing, like, you know, I'm stealing, I'm putting my hand in my husband's pocket and I'm taking his money. They're going to let you get away with that shit one time because maybe you don't know that that's a problem. And then you're going to share about, maybe somebody would talk to you outside the room and they say, hey, listen, don't go inside your man's pocket because, you know, even though he's sitting there, you know, like that's bothering him, you know. They'll do it one time. Maybe you didn't hear them. They'll do it. They'll repeat it. They'll do it a second time. By the third time, when you start talking that bullshit, they turn you out and they be talking to the next. Go on, Charlie. See, that's the way it came for me. Because one of the things that those fiends knew that us crackheads didn't know at the time is that we were fighting for our life, and so were they. And they didn't have time for you to be in here talking bullshit. And if your life wasn't important to you, it was important to them, and that's why they risked our anger to tell us these things about ourselves. But today we hear in this fellowship, you know, let people be. And it's okay to let them be because everybody's process is their process. But process means to proceed. It means to move from one point to another. I love you. I love you enough to tell you you're getting ready to go down that hole. Now, once I've done that, you have a right to make any decision that you want. But I'm going to tell you something. Don't let me die. Don't let me die. Risk my anger. And a lot of times when we talk about unity, we sometimes go through this thing of division. And I heard the speaker tonight that was speaking, and she was talking about that they don't see this unity anymore. I don't know where they've been, but I see a lot of this unity. I see the old timers against the newcomer pinned against the old timer, the middle in the middle fucking with both of them, the old timer and the newcomer. We all confused and nobody trusts each other. And at the end of the day, listen, we're all we got. It is no different. And you know, when we hear in our literature and it talks about, you know, we hear about that the newcomer's the most important person at any meeting. Yeah, they are. But they ain't the only important person. We're all important. Because one shot, we all shot. And the reason why the newcomer becomes important to the old timer, because we stay here long enough, the disease will tell you that you're okay and you can leave. But the newcomer reminds your old lad, no, you can't. Because there's something out there for you. You know, a lot of us still struggle with, you know, getting to the exact nature of our usage. It talks about that in our literature. That's why it talks about the journey continues. See, God knows what to do for us. Why do you think now we got the guiding principles? Besides the fact that it's time for us to, boost the sales because y'all bootlegging the basic text now and everybody ain't paying. And our fellowship needs to survive because we still got to go to other countries, right, and carry the message. But we got a guiding principles because it talks about the traditions not being negotiable, but we starting to negotiate some stuff. And we got to be real careful because even though it talks about that there's this wind, read the tradition. It says about this ill wind that's going to come in and try to destroy us as a fellowship. Well, you think they're helping us because it's the newer breed, no, there's some things that it's okay to stay the same. It told me that the same thing that helped me to get clean 26 years ago, I seen a guy 47 years that's been in fellowship. He said the basic text still helped him. So if he's 46 and I'm 26, it's working. Leave it alone. And sometimes we think we're fixing stuff, but we're really breaking it. I see division at times. I see some areas won't support another area. And it tells us that the ties that bind us together, like as long as those are stronger than those that's destroying us, like everything's going to be well. And sometimes we get afraid as a fellowship. That's why now everybody talking about these banners and putting these banners. It ain't meeting here. Where we get that from? Then I heard today, I was in a thing, I heard about, well, how did you think they got 87,000 meetings? You think it was all through a word of mouth? Mm-hmm. It was. But our fear that it won't get passed on, it does get passed on. Because you have to understand, this is a God-given program. And as long as God is governing this program and not us the addict, right? Because the only thing we touch, we destroy. But as long as God is guiding this program, you got to trust that all is going to be well. I need you. I need you to survive. And I have a disease that say, I got mine, motherfucker, you get yours. That's where it goes. And I got to be real careful about that disease. I still find a newcomer. I still do newcomer stuff. And now what I've realized that because the old timer is just as sick as the newcomer today, that the same love that I bestow upon the newcomer, sometimes it's okay to do it to the old timer. Just like we have little packages and we do certain things for the newcomer to make sure that they enjoy convention, people are going through stuff. And it's okay to be a blessing to someone else. But when we start dividing ourselves and say who's indigent and who's not, once again, it's disunity. And sometimes I realize that sometimes you got to dress up to look the part. You ever been broke but you look good? And they wouldn't know you broke till you open your mouth? That's what happens here sometimes. And that's why sometimes we hear about the old timers go out there and they kill themselves. Because sometimes people don't allow them to believe, or they don't allow them to come in here and for us to say, we're fucked up too. Because there's no difference between the old timer and the newcomer, except that the old timer, we've been here long enough and we know how fucked up we are, and your asses got to keep coming to find out how fucked up you are. And it talks about, in our literature, it also talks about we don't care. I came from New York City, right? And I don't care race, creed, religion, lack of religion, gay, straight, crooked, sideways, green, orange, purple. The meetings that I used to attend, everything that you could see was there. And also at the time, because that part of New York where we had a place where everybody used to go, there used to be a lot of infamous or famous people. And we allowed them to recover. Now, I ain't gonna tell you I wasn't starstruck, but we knew the focus, because for them to come in and us to know who they were, and for them to sit next to you in a meeting, that had to be some pretty deep stuff. And we allowed people to recover. And sometimes we have to give people an opportunity for them to get better. So don't think because of my time, right? Like I got this. I don't. Don't think that my disease attacked me at 23 years. I was speaking at Boston. I was at their convention. It was supposed to be in front of 5,000 people. And my disease said to me, I want to rock right now. And it wasn't Rob Bass, and he wasn't here to get down. And what my disease did is it stopped long enough for me to carry the message to you. And then it said, by the way, remember we talked about? You can get high out here and nobody know you. And you know what I had that thought, I was looking, right? And I could see them saying, ain't that girl that shared here going around the block? I didn't think I was going to be able to make it home. This is the vision that I saw. 23 years my disease attacked me. And I remember saying, I just got to get back to my room. And you know when you can't shake it, you ever call somebody and you going through something and they still don't get it? They don't quench it? And I kept talking to people to try to get rid of it and get rid of it and get rid of it. And it wouldn't go any place and it stayed on me. And I didn't want to call my sponsor because it was 3 o'clock in the morning. And my sponsor cursed me out later to say, I don't care what time it is. Because we have a disease that don't have a time frame. I don't know about you, but I got high 1 to 6. In the daylight. That's what my disease did for me. And as I was in the hotel room, right, because I made it back to my hotel room, and the only thing that I could do, that's why I tell you, you got to do the work. Get off the people and get with the program, because I was founded in the program, and because I had a foundation in the program, I was able, when it got there, and guess what? I heard that voice. And the voice was the God of my understanding. He said, have you finished calling everybody you think you need to call? He said, call on me. And even now, y'all see I get emotional because that's how real it was for me. That I forgot who's in charge of my life. And it said, this force was working in my life way before I met y'all. That's why it's so easy for me to get off the people and get with the program. That's why sometimes some of y'all will see, I will dismiss you in a minute. Because I don't care how much we sitting here and how profound we sound. Every time I felt like it wasn't, I didn't hear keep coming back, more will be revealed. When you want to use that disease, ain't going to let you call your sponsor, your sponsee, whatever, unless you got a firm foundation. And sometimes the only thing you can say is, God, help me. So I encourage you to get a God in your understanding. I encourage you to make this a platform where people can come and share their truth. I want to talk about being unsafe in y'all meetings too. I'm talking about when I came around, there were people that shared about everything. I mean everything. And you got to be careful when people say don't share shit in here. Go take it to your sponsor. Your sponsor's another fucking junkie that is subject to use just like your way. You keep going just to your sponsor and see what happens. Now I want you for 1 minute to imagine this. Imagine if all of us only took what we were thinking to our sponsor. I don't know about y'all. I couldn't have stayed here because I wasn't a nice addict. I wasn't a nice chick. But it wasn't until I met other unnice chicks to find out I'm in the right place. So sometimes it's painful for me to share about some of my experiences in here because my experiences, because people have lost their way and they don't understand why we come together. And they will take your shit out of here. And see, let me tell you something. I'm very careful what I take of yours out here. Because I don't know from which rock you crawl from. And I don't know if something out of my mouth might do something to cause you to go back. So I'm very considerate. When I'm sharing your intimate stuff, the things I have to ask myself is, what is my motive? What is my motive to reveal that you over there cheating on your wife? Is it to help somebody else? Did I come to you, my brother, and say, listen, brother, why are you cheating on your wife? What's going on with you? Or I'm letting you go down that hole. You decide. So, coming into this fellowship, it's not only in closing the disunity that we talk about, because it talks about unity. It says, as long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those forces that tear us apart, because we come from different places. Like when I grew up, my father used to play Tito Puente, Cecilia Cruz, Bob Marley, Frank Sinatra. And when I brought this guy home from school, right? And his name was Frank. And Frank had a little rock group. I mean, where I lived was only black and white. Me and him liked each other. And I took Frank from the top of the projects and brought him down to where I lived. And all the people in the projects who hung out on the avenue saw Frank come down, and the guys was looking at me, said, no, you didn't bring this guy into the, you know what I'm talking about, you didn't bring him into this neighborhood. And I said, oh, yes, I did, because I liked Frank. I was in the Fonzie back then. And hip-hop was just starting, so he liked hip-hop. So I get all the way home, and my father, who is from Augusta, Georgia, my father grew up, him and Martin Luther King are born on the same day. They were born 2 hours apart. I really think I should have been Martin Luther King's daughter, because sometimes I'd be a hellraiser, right? And I remember talking with Frank, and we were going to go study. And my father says, Tanya, who's that? I said, oh, Daddy, it's Frank. He said, what is Frank doing here? I said, are we going to study? He said, Tanya, you got 2 minutes to get Frank out my house. So as soon as we came down, maybe about 5 minutes later, everybody that was on the avenue seen me and Frank going back up the hill. And the guys were shouting, I knew your father wasn't going to let him stay down there. And I said, Frank, I feel so bad. I feel so bad. He said, Tanya, that's okay, because you couldn't have never came to my house. And so the things that I say is that sometimes we get this mixed message. Also coming from New York, like we're very diversified. I don't get shocked by nobody's behavior. I believe that people have a right to be. But your right ends where the next person's right begins. And we come into this environment where it tells us that we don't care who you are. We really don't. Back then, we didn't have that many role models. Like, we didn't have old timers. And this guy still today, I think he still lives, Dutch. Dutch was a white dude that came all the way from Jersey to our meeting on the Lower East Side. And he would carry the message, not the mess. And sometimes today, we get caught up on who's giving the message. Sometimes, even today, we get caught up on how the message is delivered. See, some of us think we got to be entertained in order to say, damn, that was a profound speaker. Sometimes, it's just a subtle voice. You know, I work towards, when I hear the speakers, sometimes I like the hoopla, right? Because, addicts, we got to be entertained. You know how y'all get, right? But there's also a part of me that's moved to a point in my life where I just want to hear the message. Because I have to silence the disease. And so I hope, if anything, that you take away from this experience that I've had. And even in my area, let me just say this. I go to a particular home group, and I will not name the home group. If y'all guess it, it's all right, because it's an anonymous program, but that's to the people on the outside. But when I came there, it wasn't a lot of African Americans at that group based on where I lived. I didn't even know that the area that I lived, it just really kind of started opening up about 15 years ago for African Americans to be there. And when I came to this group, I watched some behavior that was going on in the group. Now, I was just visiting, but I was watching some of the behavior that was going on towards different members of that particular group. And I made a promise as an old timer that it's not going to happen on my watch. See, you can either be a part of the solution, or you can be part of the problem. There was a very famous person that I like their quote. It says, an injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So maybe somebody may not be fucking with you personally, but if you know it goes against what we as a fellowship, you have a responsibility to make sure that any addict that's seeking recovery need never die from the horrors of addiction. I can tell you, I've also attended meetings where there's African American, they use the C word like it's baseball, hot dog, apple pie, and Chevrolet. And at that point, that's inappropriate too. You don't do to people what you don't want done to you. You don't come into a fellowship that's built on love and bring your prejudice and your racism, and I don't care who you are, unless you're coming in here to destroy those stigmas that's going to keep you away from us. This is not the place for that. And so I say unto you today that our message is hope, our promise is freedom, that an addict, any addict, can stop using, lose that desire to use wherever they are, and you can come into Narcotics Anonymous and find a new way to live. Thank you for allowing me to share my experience and hope.
Hello, family. Again, my name is Sherrod, blessed recovering addict.
Hey, Sherrod.
And the next speaker that's going to share on unity and recovery is Daryl.
My name is Daryl Madden.
Hey, Daryl.
I'm from a small town in New York called Newburgh, New York. It was voted one of the 10 worst small cities in the United States. And I went back to Newburgh. I had called my mother and asked her for some money to pay. I was living in Atlanta for money to pay my rent with. And Mama said, well, I can't keep paying bills in two places, but you can always come home. You know, that was at the end. No, it wasn't at the end. That was almost at the end of the road for me. And I said, I'm gonna surely die in New York because dope was so much cheaper up there. Mm. And I remember when I got there, my mother gave me a beauty salon. And I was raised up there, but I had moved to Atlanta. And I used to see this guy walking down the street. And when he was walking, I looked and I'm like, wow, I remember him when he was a cold-blooded junkie, right? Mm-hmm. And this brother was sharp, he looked good. And I'm like, he's going to church. That's what he's doing. He done went to church and got off of drugs. I met this girl and she wasn't getting high, and you know, sooner or later she started getting high. So one night she told me, she said, Daryl, she said, I can't do this anymore. I need some help. And I'm like, well, what we gonna do? She said, I know where we can go get some help. She was married to an alcoholic before, and she used to go to AA meetings. Anyway, so I was like, okay, what the hell, you know, I'll go there with you. Before then, when I was in Atlanta, my brother worked for Georgia Power, and they had sent him off to rehab 3 times. The 3 times they sent him to rehab, I went to get him. One time I was in Augusta and Savannah. We never made it back to Atlanta before he got high. You know what I'm saying? We never made it back to Atlanta before he got high. So I was still convinced that didn't work. You know, the rehab and stuff, I'm like, that's not working because I'm seeing what he's doing, right? So, all right, well, I'm in New York, and so the girl, she takes me to a meeting. The first meeting she takes me to is all white people. Then I'm like, oh no, I can't relate to them because I'm just leaving Atlanta, right? And Blacktown. So she takes me to a black meeting. I'm like, oh no, well, I don't want to go back there. The point was, I didn't want to go anyway. But what happened was, when the second meeting that she took me to, when I walked in, the brother that used to walk down the street with the high pro glow around him, you know what I mean, with the halo around him, I'm like, he was there. And I know him because we used to get high together. And he looked at me, and when he looked at me, he smiled. And that smile he gave me, I'm like, no, couldn't be. This couldn't be where you're going. You know what I'm saying? So what I heard in that meeting was keep coming back. I didn't understand nothing else that they were saying, but I understood keep coming back. Back then, I'm in my disease. You know what I'm saying? So keep coming back. I'm on my girl, my lady, she gonna be happy. She's got the check coming in every month. So if I can make her happy, then I could continue to get high. And which I did. When I went, for about my first 4 months, every night that I left, I went and got high. And I told them, I said, you know, I'm going to get high. They said, keep coming back. I'm like, cool, I can come here. Sit down, talk, foolishness. and come back, and y'all welcomed me with open arms, and I thought I was in heaven then, that I could do what I wanted to do, and it would be okay for me to come back, so that worked pretty good. Now, the thing about that is, in here is, I was an addict. When I was in the street, I never heard the word, you're an addict. I never heard that word before. All of these cliches and the sayings that I hear in Narcotics Anonymous, I never heard none of that in the streets. So when I come in here, everything is new that y'all saying. And I come to find out a little bit later on is that this is like a cult. Where in here we have our own language that we use. The word surrender, when I first came in, they had that word surrender, right? And I'm like, surrender? I ain't no punk. You know what I'm saying? I can go out there and get it. So what I thought, and my TV, I'm in the days when the Western was, the Indians used to wave the flag. So surrender meant you wave the white flag and you give up. I'm like, oh no, that ain't me. You know what I'm saying? Because everything that I thought I knew about the program, man, I ain't know nothing. When you first came in, they show you that basic text, and they say, this is what you know. They show you them first 2 pages. It's blank.
That's right.
And I'm like, man, I know more than that. But what I found out is that when I came in here, I had learned too much in the streets. I was too smart. I remember Nancy Reagan said something. Nancy Reagan said, just say no. I'm like, B.I.T., how I'm going to say no to this? That ain't going to help me by just saying no. But later on, I found out, man, is it that simple? All I had to do was say no. And when I came in here, they say, if you don't pick it up, you don't get high. I'm like, that's right. I don't get high if I don't pick it up. Right. I never knew it was the first one that got me. I never knew that. I'm thinking it's when I run out of money. That's when I'm in trouble. Never knew it was the first one. You know what I'm saying? So now, every night I went and got high when I left the meeting, but I came back every day, every night. I came back the next night. I came. And I was hearing some things, right, as I was in there talking my foolishness. So then I got 2 days without using. And I'm like, wow, it's all right. But then I went back and got high. Came back, got 2 weeks. I'm like, man, this, I'm not what I thought I was. I'm not a square for being like this. But then what happened was I used to park my truck around the corner from the meeting because I didn't want my friends to know where I was going. Because when I came to the meeting, I thought I was better than everybody in there. Because the other guys, when I came along, people come, when they came to the meeting, they didn't have nothing.
That's right.
And I didn't have nothing either because my mama gave me everything that I had. My mama had gave it to me, but in my mind, it was mine. I thought that I had it going on and y'all didn't. So, I'm in there with my chest stuck out talking all this foolishness. But I kept hearing the principles and some stuff in the meeting. So I finally figured out how to stop. I figured out how to stop, but I didn't want to. And a guy told me, he said, just go touch the door and say a prayer. I'm like, the hell is touching the door gonna do for me? What the meeting said. So one night I couldn't go to the meeting. I went and touched the door and said a prayer. Man, I felt better. One day I was washing the truck, and the beer that was sitting there, it was like mesmerizing me, right? I'm looking at the water running down off of it, and then an addict come up, he said, Daryl, and it just went away. The thought about using that, right, it just, I'm like, wow, man, I'm on to something, But I had a friend of mine, he was a booster, and when you see him and he had the mumps in the pocket, I didn't tell him I was going to the meetings. I told a lot of my other friends, if you tell people you're going to meetings, they will leave you alone because they want you to get help. Yeah. My friends, they wanted me to get help. That's but right. The brother that I didn't tell, reservation.
That's right.
That's the one I went out and got high with. One time. The last time I got high, I remember I was in the shop doing some hair, and I called my boy, the one that used to walk down the street with the glow, that looked good. And I told him, I said, yo, man, I can't come to the meeting because I got to get this money. He said, well, man, I understand. That's your job. Do your job. I got that money, right? I walked to the truck, my truck 5 times. That 5th time, I was like, the hell with it. I'm gone. I went and got this girl, man, and we had a good time that night. And at the end of the night, I went to the bar and I asked my niece's boyfriend, who was a drug dealer, to buy me a little nip. And he told me he didn't have no money. He's standing there, his pocket sticking out like this with money in it. And that night I said, I'm not going to do this no more, that I'm better than this. I surrendered in the bar high. Then I went home and drank the liquor that was in the closet, because it was around Christmas time, that my mother had in the closet downstairs. But you know what I found out that night? The next day, I got up and went to a meeting and haven't used since then. That was 12/17/97. What I found out that night was when I if it's in my body, I have no control. I got to go get another one. If it's in there. But I haven't put it in there since then, so I don't have to go. See, today I got some choices. But check this out now. So now I'm in the program, you know, and in this program that I'm in, we don't have no rules. They don't tell you what to do. You don't have to do nothing. And I'm like, but I was out there in the street with some people that steal your dope and help you look for it. So now how are we gonna get together and love one another and all of this stuff right here? You know what I'm saying? That's where that unity thing come in. You see, our common welfare should come first.
That's right.
Personal recovery. Common welfare. Well, we got something in common now, you know. And what we got in common is, you know what we are. But the thing is, it says personal recovery depends on innate unity. So how we gonna get some unity with no rules? But you see, the thing is that we have this thing that's called a conscience. Is that when we start acting foolish, it's gonna act up too. So what I found out was that my primary purpose in here is to carry the message to the addict. And that's me. I'm an addict too, so I got to carry the message to me. And I found out one thing about Narcotics Anonymous. Narcotics Anonymous, what it'll do, it'll tell me, said, listen, you're in a room with a bunch of addicts. So don't expect too much out of these people now. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is that they do, we all don't recover at the same time.
That's right.
So if you are acting a fool today, I got to remind myself, yo, Darryl, that's an addict.
That's right.
If you are sharing something that I don't agree with, I got to say, Darryl, you know, you got to put these principles and all this stuff on there. You got to sit here and say, I got to keep an open mind. I got to listen to what he say. I'm off on Mondays, right? So I'm out riding around on Mondays, and the people just going all slow in front of me. You know, and I'm pulling in front of me and I'm giving them the fingers. And I read in the book one time to say, somebody had said they gave somebody the finger that pulled in front of them, then they seen them at a meeting. So how you feel then when you supposed to be so, you know,
that's right.
ain't this and then ain't that.
Right.
But what I found out was that when I'm off on Monday, is that these are old people that's trying to go and pay their bills to get out the way of the people in the evening time so they can get on. Wow. But it wasn't them. In here, I got to look at me. See, I'm the one who's supposed to have a program who's trying to get my life together. Right. And with this program that I have, it teaches me some things. It teaches me if things is not going my way, I can start my day back over going and saying a prayer. You know, going to the room, in the bedroom, or anywhere, and just say a prayer. It teaches me that if an addict is sharing something that I agree or don't agree with, I should have an open mind and listen to them. We in here to help each other.
That's right. We're
not in here, you know, it said it's parallel. You know what I'm saying? And that means that we ain't trying to cross each other. Man, I've been reading this book right here. And in this book right here, it says should. You know, and I wrote this down. And I ain't never did this before because I jump back and forth, you know, when I'm talking. You know what it said, that should means implies that this is a goal rather than absolute. Right. So our common welfare, that's a goal that is going to come first. You know what I'm saying? It's a goal that we're going to make that there comes first. You know, and when the newcomer come in here, to carry the message, we gotta stay on that. They say in this book right here, they say, whatever you are out there, when you come to Narcotics Anonymous, leave what you are out there. And we ain't saying that don't work. Right. It might work. But what we are saying is that when you in here, Narcotics Anonymous worked. This program right here, it had worked in thousands of people's lives. So this thing worked. Now, if you in a program that worked, let's get into the program. Let's try to figure out what it is that we could do to make it better, not to make it worse. You see, because in here, man, think about this. We in a room where people used to rob, kill you, rape you, and all of this. Now you walk in the door and they give you a hug. What? You know what I'm saying? They ain't trying to steal. You can leave your pocketbook there and go to the bathroom. You're in a room with a bunch of addicts, and they won't take it. Something going on in here.
That's right. That's right.
You know what? But the thing is, they tell you when you come in here, let's get a loving and caring God.
Right.
So what we doing, you just flipping this stuff. Because when I was out there, man, I used to drive with my leg, getting high. I drive all over town with my knee, getting high. I found out that I had to come in here and dummy up. I was too smart for the program. I knew too much. Every time somebody asked me, I know. And they already showed me the book. They showed me the book, and in the book they said, what is it that you know about this? Tell me about the program. And I couldn't even tell them what surrender meant. Somebody asked me about, I don't know how many years ago it was, someone asked me, I was at a meeting, it was a long time ago, and they asked me about unity. And you know what I told them? I said, I don't know what that means. And which I didn't know what it meant. And then I get a phone call, they called me and asked me to speak on unity. I'm like, what? Something going on in here.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
This thing right here, can you imagine, man? And we try to get mad at people for sharing where they at. Somebody tell you to share where you at, then when you share where you at and they don't like it, they get upset. Or you share where you at and then a person sitting across from you and they looking at you like, you talking about me? No, you told me to share where I'm at. Right. I could be here right now and then 5 or 10 minutes later, I could be in a different place. You told me to share where I am so I could get it off of me to put it on somebody else. Not to put it on somebody else, but somebody else might pick it up. You told me to share where I am so I could get it off of me.
That's right.
This program right here, man, it teaches me. When I was in the street, when I was in the street, it was all about, he told me don't hit on this cause of the mic. It was all about me, right? It was me. I used to could go out there and use and abuse anybody that comes my way. I used and abused my mom. So what you think I think about you? You know what I'm saying? But then when I get in here,
right,
you tells me service work will get me out of that me. Right. And get me into the we.
That's right.
So now, and then when I got a position in service, I'm like, all right, I'm doing it. I'm the man, you know. And then somebody told me, they said, Daryl, you know what, man? We trust you to serve us. So I'm like, what? You trust me? That's it. Ain't that something? So now that does get me out of the me. See, because when I was out there in the street, I'm at that animalistic level. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about nothing. But then when I come in here, I gotta flip it. I gotta care about what y'all. You know, I sometimes I hear people, they say, I don't care what a person think about me. Well, wait a minute. If you my eyes and ears,
that's right.
I gotta care what you think about me, because you know what somebody told me one time? What? They said, Daryl, you can't see you.
That's right.
But I can. I was like, but in the mirror. They said, no, that's an image of you, but you can't see you. And then one day I was on the golf course, right? This dude that I knew, he was like way on the other side, and I seen him swing, and I was like, yeah, I know who that is, because of that person that I knew who that person was. So if we are the eyes and ears of each other, yes, it's important what someone else thinking of you, because if they can't see it, it ain't there. Right. If nobody can see something in you, then what is there? I'm gonna tell y'all something, man. This book right here, everything we do in Narcotics Anonymous, ultimate in service to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. Everything that we do in here, we supposed to be carrying a message to an addict that suffers. That message is hope. You know what I'm saying? To come in here, it tells us that we're powerless over this thing. We need all the help that we could get. All the help. So if our job is to carry the message, then we ain't got no time for the mess. See, if we keep our mind on carrying the message, then you ain't worrying about what they're doing, what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to help you. If I could come to you and tell you, yo, I think that what you're doing right there, you might need to put a check on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's on you how you take it.
That's right.
Narcotics Anonymous is a place where addicts come to with love. In here, you know the key that I found out what's the key to this program is love and service work.
Yep.
Because when and I guess that's why they tell us to get a loving, caring, and kind God. When I first walked into the rooms and they had those traditions and steps on the wall, when I seen that word God, I was like, oh no, this ain't for me. But what I didn't know was those foxholes prayers that I had been praying.
Yes.
You've been praying too.
What kind of answer I'm gonna get is 8 o'clock, I'm high, just ran out, and I want to go to sleep and wake up at 9. And he won't wake me up at 9. So how that prayer gonna get answered? But I prayed for like 10 years, you know, to find something more powerful than the dope that I was using.
Wow.
And when I found it, I didn't even know it, that I had found it. You know, and some people, they say about how they pray and meditate. My answer don't come that quick. But I'm not saying that other people do or don't. I just found that in meditation, you sit back and wait for that, the quiet, conscious
That's
thing
right.
to
That's
talk
right.
to you. I just don't talk to me like that. You know, but for other people that do, that's good for them. I was suggesting that our common welfare should come first as telling us that well-being of the group should be more important than the desire of the individual.
Yes.
I remember I know I got 19 years, right? So yeah, I remember I always wanted to be the person to have the most time in a meeting. When I first came around, I was like, they got that many years? Nah, man, I want that. You know, I want them look, man, and it came till I was the person with the most time in the room. So we had a business meeting, right? And at the business meeting, we was to vote on something for the group. And I'm looking around at the members, I'm like, we can't have no business meeting with these members, because I knew that what I wanted for the group. And in my heart, I knew it wasn't right. And I knew that they was gonna listen to what I was saying. So I told them, I said, listen, y'all, God really ain't in here like y'all think he is. We need to go to the area and get somebody else to come to this meeting, because
Wow.
I knew that it wasn't right.
Right,
See,
right.
in here, my thing was not that important. I knew in Narcotics Anonymous group, you see, because Narcotics Anonymous has done so much for me.
That's right.
I remember that person that was out there in the streets, that how I was. Man, I remember when my child walked in the room and I was getting high, and I looked at her and I couldn't say nothing. And she walked out and I still got high. I remember when I went to the babysitter, I was going to cut the dope dealer's hair, and the babysitter called me and told me my baby was doing something wrong. I went over there and beat her, and then went on to the dope dealer's house and cut his hair, his son's hair, and got high. And today, one of them, she is good with me. The other one, she ain't. 19 years, she still ain't came around. But she's there every now and then. I called the other day, she told me, she said, I blocked you on my phone. I was like, okay. The other one, she said, Dad, I love you. Call me. I asked her what to get the baby for Christmas. She told me, say, my baby got everything that she needs. I just want you to video call her so that she will know who you are. The difference in the two, but see, Narcotics Anonymous did this.
Yeah.
That's what did this.
Yeah.
And you know, the surprising thing about this fellowship is, if you want to become a member, a desire.
That's it.
Only, you know that word only means?
That's solo.
Yeah. A desire, and I could join this. Okay, so what's my benefits? You know what I'm saying? What I gotta do? Keep coming back. I always tell people the most profound thing I ever heard in a meeting was keep coming back. And I have my reasons for that. Because when I first came, my father, I was riding in the car with my father, we were going to North Carolina. My mother, she said, Darryl, she said, I want you to ride with your daddy to North Carolina because he's getting old. Go to the family reunion. I said, Mama, I don't like him like that. She told me, she said, I give you $300, I was still getting high. So she gave me the money. I rode with him. So he was going to meetings. I was like new in the program then. But I was still getting high, but I was new in the program. But I got to know him a little bit when we went on that ride down there. And then there was a sign on the back of a car. It says, easy does it. So my daddy was going to AA. So I said, Daddy, what that mean? He said, you ain't ready yet. Man, that man pissed me off so bad. Years later, when I found out what easy does it mean, I knew what he meant when he told me you ain't ready yet. See, in this program right here, you can hear them words or surrender, selfishness, and all of these things, and you think that you know what they mean, but if it's not in the heart. See, in here, one thing about Narcotics Anonymous, what I found out is that we speak the language of the heart.
Yes.
The language of the heart. If that word surrender is not in your heart, I can sit here and tell you what it means, all night long. But if it's not in your heart, man, you don't know what that means. You got to find out the meaning of these words for yourself. When I went to my first meeting, the dude named Vernon, I used to say, yo, Vernon, what this mean? He used to look at me and laugh. I'm like, man, what are you laughing at me for? I want to know what this means. He just look at me and laugh. But that kept me coming back to because I wanted to know. Man, we are in something to where you don't have to wear no uniform. It ain't no rule. They got some traditions. There's no reason for you not to come to a meeting. You know the only reason for you not to come to a meeting? You don't want to come. That's the only reason. If there was dope over in Alabama, you would get there. So if there was a meeting in Alabama, you should be able to get to where the meeting. Tradition, they even got it to where we ain't gonna mention no of those religious stuff in here because we don't want to offend you in order for you not to come. That's the unity. This thing right here is so tight. I went to a meeting in New York, felt right at home. I was laid back like, all right, I'm in Columbus. I went to California to a meeting right at home because the unity got it to where same thing. Inside the meetings, an atmosphere of recovery. You know why that's important? You know what they teaches me? And when I went to high school, they said the body is the most well-designed machine that you have ever seen. If it's malfunction, it comes from input. Ears, eyes, nose, mouth. Atmosphere recovery. Man, sometimes when you ever went into a meeting and could feel it in there that it ain't that atmosphere in there. You know what I'm saying? So if we got an atmosphere recovery to carry the primary purpose, if we got the atmosphere recovery, and then we tell the newcomer, you ain't got to use no more. You ain't got to use no dope. Let us help you. And then if we helping them and we keep that atmosphere all around, following the tradition. They say the tradition is about a relationship. I hear people talking about, I ain't gonna get no relationship. You gotta get a relationship. Relationship with you, the group, and service. You see, because that service is important. When I first came around, I had the shop, right? I used to keep coffee in the shop because coffee bring addicts. You know what I'm saying? And I used to tell them, I'd be like, yo, man, you can come to the shop and get a cup of coffee. And if you don't have no job, I'll cut your hair for free. I still do the same thing today. In Columbus, if you ain't got no job, and ladies with doing the hair and stuff like that, they can come to me. If you trying to do something to help yourself, whoever, listen, Narcotics Anonymous done did a lot of stuff for me.
That's right.
My daughter, when she got ready to get married, her fiance at that time called me for my blessing. And the girl that I work with, she told me, oh, he must don't know that you didn't raise her. I was like, he know how she feel about me now. That girl loved me. But I remember all of those years of her life that I missed. Like 15 years, man, I don't know what she was doing. Her mama was raising her. This program right here, man, if you're a newcomer and you in here, your prayer has been answered. The only thing you have to do to get this thing right here is keep coming back. Because if you keep coming back, this program gonna get you. You ain't got to get it, it's going to get you. That's what happened to me. That's why I always tell people the most profound thing I heard was keep coming back. I like that concept is that I come to a place to where there's no rules. I mean, there's no must. You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody tell you what you have to do. Can't nobody tell you you got to do this. You ain't got to do nothing in here. But come and sit down and just listen. If you come and do that, man, this thing will grab a hold to you, and before you know it, you'll be doing something. But if you really want it, now they got some steps, tradition, and concepts and all that stuff right there for you to do if you want a better life than what it was that you got or that you had when you came in here. Because when I came in, I was told up. This thing right here is spiritual. Somebody told me one time, I heard everything that I'm saying, I heard somebody else say it, because I knew none of this.
That's right.
I heard a brother share to me, and he said, I have a disease that's lying in ambush on my unspiritual thoughts to attack. You see what I'm saying? So if this is a spiritual program, when you get them unspiritual thoughts, man, you got to get rid of them.
Right.
Because if you get rid of them unspiritual thoughts, then you got a chance. You know what I'm saying? You could do a little something then. And then we got a reading it that says just for the day. It tells you how to get those thoughts out. Call somebody. And nowadays, everybody got a cell phone. With numbers in there, all you got to do is hit a button. You ain't got to put that dime recorder in there like
That's
when
right.
I came around.
That's right.
Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks for
sharing. My name is Sherrod. Still a grateful recovering addict.
Hey, Sherrod.
I'd like to thank the speakers.